The midnight freight train thundered across the New Mexico desert, its headlight a white blade slicing the darkness. Just another midnight run. 80 miles of nothing but sagebrush and stars. Wait, what is that up ahead? Something standing right on the rails. In the headlight beam, a massive jet-black stallion stood frozen in the center of the tracks, head lifted defiantly. He's not moving. Why isn't he moving? He's going to get us both killed. Paul's weathered hand slammed the emergency brake lever. With every ounce of force he had, the brakes shrieked in protest. Orange sparks erupted from the wheels in a violent cascade of light. The locomotive screeched to a grinding halt, 30 feet from the stallion. The great horse never flinched. Paul snatched his glass and brass lantern and swung down from the cab into the cold desert air. He stepped onto the crosties, lantern raised. The black stallion still stood like a statue, waiting. Easy now. Just a spooked horse. But those eyes, they look right through me. Get off the tracks. Move. You stubborn beast. He won't budge. He's not scared. He's planted like a sentry. The lantern light caught a thin rope glinting on the rail, tied tight around the steel. That's not debris. That's deliberate. Somebody tied that knot tonight. Paul stepped past the horse, and his blood ran cold. A limp boy lay tethered beneath the crosties, gagged and blindfolded. Dear God. Hang on, son. I am getting you out of there. He dropped to his knees, sliced the ropes with shaking hands, and pulled the boy free into the lantern light. The child's chest rose in shallow gasps. Paul cradled him, feeling the fragile heartbeat against his own. You knew. You stood on this track to stop a train for him. Got to get him inside and call for help. Now, in the cab, Paul grabbed the radio handset, his voice cracking as he gave their coordinates and pleaded for an ambulance.
Paul, what the hell's going on? Dispatch said something about a child on the tracks.
He was tied to the rails, Joe. A little boy. He's barely breathing.
Where is he? Let me see him.
Sheriff Joe knelt on the crosties, pressing 2 fingers to the boy's throat. A faint pulse, but alive.
That's Dennis Herrera. I know this boy. His father runs the big spread south of here.
The ambulance arrived and loaded the pale child onto a stretcher. Paul stood by, watching the flashing lights shrink into the night. A Herrera. This wasn't a crime. This was an execution. And that horse stopped it. At the small county hospital, nurses worked over the boy as dawn broke. He hadn't opened his eyes. Paul sat at the bedside, the boy's small hand limp in his calloused palm. A nurse had removed the gag, but the child still hadn't spoken.
He gave me the milk. Tasted funny. I couldn't move after.
Who, son, who gave you the milk? Tell me.
That's enough. He's my son, and you have no right to question him. Get out.
Your son was tied to railroad tracks to die. I am not leaving until someone tells me why.
Victor, leave him alone. You don't touch that boy. You've done enough. I am Dennis's legal guardian now. The doctor has already called me. You will wait outside.
This isn't over, engineer. You stay away from my family, or you'll regret it.
He's not grieving. He's hiding. I am going to find out what really happened to this boy.
Paul walked out of the hospital into the rising New Mexico sun. The boy's whisper and the father's cold threat burning in his chest. Paul drove straight to the tracks, in the hard midday sun, the desert heat already shimmering off the steel rails. He knelt and picked up torn rope fibers still wound around the spikes, the same coarse hemp from the night before.
Same twist, same cheap fiber. This didn't come from a railroad tool shed. It came from a ranch.
At the sheriff's office, Joe laid out a sample he'd pulled from the Herrera tack shed under the harsh desk lamp.
It's a match, Paul. Whoever tied that boy used rope from the Herrera Ranch's own tack shed.
That afternoon, Paul drove to the Herrera Ranch. Victor answered the door with a face of practiced sorrow, dressed in a clean Western shirt.
I can't thank you enough for saving my son. Please, there's a reward for your heroism. Name your price.
He sounds rehearsed, like he's been waiting for this question all day.
Paul glanced down. Victor's expensive leather boots bore deep tread marks, identical to prints Joe had photographed beside the crosties.
Those aren't ranch boots. Those are the exact same soles that stood over that boy in the dirt.
Paul found the older ranch hand, Jack, mucking a stall in the dim barn, the pitchfork pausing at every sound.
I need to ask about that black stallion on the tracks. Who does he belong to?
That horse belonged to the boy's mother before she passed. Mr. Herrera sold him 6 months back.
He's lying about something. His voice cracked when he mentioned the boy.
You are wasting your time, engineer. That horse was just a runaway. Nobody sent him.
A runaway. He broke out 4 days ago and crossed 20 miles of desert to stand on those rails.
Paul had already spoken to Miller, the horse's new owner, who confirmed the stallion had been unsettled for days. Pawing at the fence, the stallion had traveled under moon and sun, straight to the crosties where Dennis lay bound.
That horse didn't run away. He was heading exactly where he was needed.
Paul walked away from the ranch, Jack's trembling and Ray's hostility swirling together. Guilt neither man could fully hide. That evening, Paul returned to the hospital, the day's discoveries churning like a black drumbeat in his chest.
Don't make me drink it, please. Daddy, no.
Elena held him tight, whispering soft Spanish prayers until the terror passed, her old eyes wet with fury.
He dreams of that night every hour. The milk, he knows who gave it. He just can't say it yet.
Why? What would push a man to do this to his own child?
My daughter's will left the ranch and everything to Dennis. On her death, not Victor's. He only controlled it as guardian.
The answer opened like a wound. If Dennis died before he came of age, the entire Herrera fortune would fall to Victor.
It wasn't hatred. It was a ledger. My son as a transaction.
Outside, the moon rose over the same desert, where a black stallion had crossed 20 miles, not to run but to stand guard.
Now I know why. Now I just need to prove it, before he tries again.
The next morning, Victor Herrera stormed into the hospital with a sheaf of legal papers, demanding his son be released into his custody.
I am his father. The law gives me the right to take him home. Now,
You will take him over my dead body. The doctor says he is not stable. He stays.
The attending doctor backed Elena's guardianship, and Victor stormed out of the room, rage barely contained.
Herrera, you are not taking that boy anywhere. I know about the will.
you think that old woman can protect him forever? Stay out of this, engineer, or you won't live to regret it.
That's not a threat. That's a promise. I need to get to Joe.
That afternoon, Sheriff Joe called Paul to the station. A truck driver had come forward with an eyewitness account.
This witness saw 2 men carrying something heavy toward the tracks around 1 a.m. One of them was big, sounded like Ray.
Jack and Ray. Bring them in, Joe. We've got them.
Within the hour, Sheriff Joe had Jack and Ray in separate rooms at the station, the overhead bulbs burning hot.
You got nothing. I was home. My wife saw me. Ask anyone.
I can't. Ray, I can't do this. I got to tell them.
Shut your mouth, you weak fool. There's nothing to tell.
Search the ranch, Joe. Victor wouldn't have used his own rope without keeping more.
The search warrant came through in 10 minutes. In the tack shed, buried under old blankets, they found the spool. The hemp was a perfect match. Twist, thickness, and the same cheap grade from the Herrera supply.
Victor planned this down to the rope. Jack's breaking point is our only shot.
This ties the crime to the ranch, not a person yet. Jack's our only chance to name the buyer.
I'll talk to Jack alone. He's scared, and scared men talk when they think it's over.
In the musty darkness of the barn, Paul and the sheriff led Jack to the corner where the rope spool had been found.
This rope is from your employer's shed. The witness puts you and Ray at the tracks. Talk now.
He paid us $500 to make it look like an accident. I didn't want to hurt that boy.
Who paid you? Say the name. Jack.
Victor Herrera. He said the boy was better off dead. You lie. I never paid you a cent. This man is trying to frame me.
Your boots, your rope, your hired hands. The truth is catching up to you, Herrera.
Jack, you are under arrest. Victor, until we verify, you are free. But don't leave town.
He's going to walk out of here, but not for long. I'll find the proof that buries him.
Victor strode out of the barn, a cold smile playing at his lips. But in the morning light, the rope fibers still held their truth. By nightfall, Paul sat in the dim jailhouse, facing Jack through the cold iron bars.
You are the only one who can send Victor to prison. Testify, and the law will protect you.
He'll kill my wife if I talk. You don't know what he's capable of.
He almost murdered his own son for money. You can stop him from doing it again.
All right, I'll testify, but promise me my family will be safe.
That night, a shadow paused outside the jail window. Glass shattered, and a blade glinted in the moonlight. Jack screamed as the knife slashed his arm. The attacker fled into the dark before anyone could react. In the hospital jail ward, Jack lay bandaged, his face ashen. Paul entered with a dark resolve.
Victor sent that man to silence a witness. Now, I have to force him into the open.
No proof it was him. But we can set a trap, leak that Jack is ready to talk, and see who runs.
The trap worked. By noon, word had reached the Herrera ranch that Jack was set to testify before a grand jury at dawn.
They'll lock me away for life. I have to move tonight before the sheriff gets a warrant.
Victor threw cash ledgers and a pistol into a leather bag, his hands trembling with rage and fear. In the failing light, he backed the horse trailer up to the barn, loading it with silver, deeds, and anything he could sell. Paul and Sheriff Joe stepped out from behind the barn, catching him with a saddle in one hand and a wad of bills in the other.
Going somewhere. Herrera, you are under arrest for attempting to flee a criminal investigation.
This is harassment. You have no proof of anything. My lawyer will have me out by morning.
Flight is something, but it's not the same as the murder charge. We still need a smoking gun.
Joe snapped cuffs onto Victor's wrists. The rancher glared with a hatred that could scorch the desert sand.
We've got him cornered. Now I have to find the piece that ties him directly to that boy on the tracks.
As the deputies tightened their grip on Victor, a thunder of hooves erupted from the dark corral. The black stallion Hermano charged into the floodlights. The stallion's eyes locked onto Victor with a primal fury, hooves tearing the earth as he closed the distance.
Shoot that beast. Someone stop it.
Victor snatched a pistol from an open crate in the trailer, leveling the barrel at the charging stallion. Paul lunged forward, shoving Victor's arm. The shot went wide as the stallion reared against the sky. A folded paper flew from Victor's jacket, drifting down to land at Paul's feet in the dust. Paid Jack and Ray $500 for the tracks job. Make sure the boy doesn't wake up. Signed VH.
That's your handwriting. Herrera, you are finished.
He signed his own death warrant. The horse didn't just save a boy. He delivered justice.
The murder plot was exposed in ink and rage. Hermano stood watching, a black sentinel whose work was finally done. The morning after Victor's arrest, Dennis opened his eyes with a clarity that had been missing for days.
I remember now. The milk he gave me tasted bitter, and I couldn't move my legs. Then it was dark.
That's enough, son. You don't have to say more just yet. Rest now.
He will never let him near you again. I promise, mi vida.
The court appointed Elena as permanent legal guardian that week, severing Victor's last legal tie to the ranch. Paul drove Dennis out to the ranch, where Hermano had been returned to the stable at Paul's request. The boy stepped out of the truck and saw the black stallion grazing in the paddock. He froze, then ran.
Hermano, Mommy's horse. he came back.
That evening, under a sky streaked with gold and purple, Paul stood with them as Dennis leaned against the stallion's side.
I'll be there when he faces justice. You'll never have to be afraid again.
2 days later, a terrified Ray was caught at a bus depot trying to board a freight to Oklahoma. Joe's deputies brought him back in irons.
All right, I'll talk. Herrera planned the whole thing. He drugged the boy. We just did the lifting.
I already told them everything. It was Victor's idea. I am sorry.
The state formally charged Victor Herrera with conspiracy to commit murder, child endangerment, and attempted murder.
The trial is set for the first week of April. With all 3 witnesses testifying, he won't dodge this.
In a packed courtroom, Victor Herrera stood before the judge, his lawyer at his side, and entered a plea of not guilty on all counts.
They have a horse and a pair of cowards. No jury will convict a rancher on that.
He's counting on fear. But the truth is, a rope, a note, and the word of a boy.
The judge denied bail. Victor was led back to his cell under heavy guard, his eyes burning with a controlled fury. Outside, the desert waited under a hot spring sun. In 4 weeks, a jury of 12 would decide everything. The courtroom fell silent as Paul placed his hand on the worn black Bible and swore to tell the truth.
It was 2:14 a.m., 80 miles into my run. The headlight hit a black stallion standing dead center on the rails. I slammed the emergency brake. The train stopped 30 feet short. That horse didn't flinch. I climbed down with my lantern. The horse wouldn't move. Then I saw rope, and a boy, Dennis, tied blindfolded beneath the crosties.
Paul described cutting the ropes, feeling the boy's faint pulse, and radioing for help. The jury leaned forward, hanging on every word. The defense attorney rose, voice dripping with doubt. But Paul's answers were iron.
I am an engineer, not a detective. But any man who finds a child left to die has a duty to find out why.
The lawyer jabbed about the stallion, calling it a dangerous beast. Paul's jaw set.
If that horse wanted to kill, he could have. He stood on those rails to save a boy, your client's own son.
Paul stepped down from the stand, his testimony a bedrock. The prosecution had laid its foundation, but the defense still lurked. The prosecution called Jack next. He shuffled to the stand, eyes down, his bandaged arm a silent accusation.
Victor gave us $500. He said, to make it look like a train accident, I tied the boy myself.
Herrera planned every step. The drugged milk, the rope length, even which train to use. I just did what I was paid for.
A television monitor was wheeled before the jury. Dennis Herrera's small face filled the screen, remote from a side room.
The milk my dad gave me tasted bitter. I woke up tied in the dark, hearing the train. Then someone cut the ropes.
My daughter's last will. Everything, the ranch, the land, the herd, passed to Dennis on her death, not Victor's. He was only guardian until Dennis came of age. If my grandson died, Victor would own it all.
The will was entered as Exhibit 7. The prosecution rested its case. The courtroom felt like a held breath. The defense called no witnesses. Victor's lawyer announced they would rely on closing arguments alone. The judge gave instructions. The jury rose and filed out, their faces unreadable. Victor's fate now hung in their silence. The prosecution closed with the rope, the note, the will, woven into a chain no juror could break. The defense called it a frame-up by cowards. But the jury's stares never left the boy's testimony screen. The jury was out for just 2 hours and 47 minutes. The bailiff's bell tolled through the corridors. The foreman rose, paper shaking. Victor Herrera seemed to stop breathing. We, the jury, find the defendant, Victor Herrera, guilty of conspiracy to commit murder in the first degree. Victor's face went slack. His lawyer collapsed in his chair. Paul exhaled a breath he'd held for months. The judge sentenced him that hour. Life imprisonment at hard labor. No possibility of parole. Bailiffs led him out in leg irons. Victor turned once, his eyes meeting Paul's, and there was nothing but ashes. Elena pulled Dennis into her arms. Paul knelt and covered their hands with his own, his voice cracking. "It's over, son. He can't hurt you ever again." 3 weeks after the trial, Paul stood in the state capitol rotunda. Surrounded by marble and flashing cameras, the governor pinned the federal commendation to his lapel, a bronze eagle with a ribbon of navy and gold. "This doesn't belong to me alone. There's a black stallion out there who deserves more credit than I do." Newspapers across the country ran the headline, "The Black Stallion Who Stopped a Train." Hermano became legend, but Paul refused the press tour, returning instead to the ranch where a boy and a horse were healing together. "All those cameras, but the only thing I see is that horse's eyes in my headlight." He knew. A horse traveled 20 miles of desert to stand on railroad tracks for a child. If that's not courage, I don't know what is. The horse, now named Hermano by Dennis, grazed in the paddock with a boy on his back, the ranch alive again. He doesn't need a medal, a field to run and a boy to protect. That's all the recognition he'll ever want. And so the legends settled in the desert, not in headlines, but in the quiet bond between a boy, a horse, and an engineer who listened. Weeks later, Paul came back to the Herrera ranch without notice, just to see the boy for himself. From the fence line, he watched Dennis canter bareback across the pasture, Hermano's black coat shimmering in the early light.
You came back. Look, I can ride him now. He listens to me.
"I see that. He's your horse now. Yours and nobody else's." They walked together, man and boy and horse, across the same land that had nearly been stolen by greed. Elena stepped onto the porch with a tray of lemonade, her eyes full of a gratitude no words could carry. "Whatever he needs, you call me. I'll be running that same route every week." As dusk fell, Dennis leaned against Hermano's shoulder, a boy whose nightmares were slowly being replaced by hoofbeats.
He came all the way across the desert for me. I'll never let anyone hurt him.
The ranch was whole again, not because of money, but because a horse had refused to move, and a man had stopped to listen. The railway company dedicated a desert station to the rescue, erecting a new sign under the vast New Mexico sky. Locals, reporters, and railway officials gathered. Dennis stood near the tracks, Hermano beside him like a living statue. "This route isn't named for me. It's named for the Black Stallion, who knew what courage meant before any of us did." He pulled the cord. The cloth dropped, revealing the sign in bold letters, "El Tren del Caballo Negro." Applause rolled across the desert. Dennis cheered loudest of all, his hand resting on Hermano's glossy neck. A bronze plaque beneath the sign bore the silhouette of a stallion and the date, the 12th of April, 1963. "Every freight I pass this station, I'll remember that horse's eyes in my headlight." The route became a local legend, a story told to passengers who noticed the unusual name on the station sign. But those who knew the truth never needed a sign. They had the memory of a midnight stop and a beast who became a brother. And on moonlit runs, engineers still talk of the Black Stallion, who stood on the tracks and refused to flinch. 5 summers later, a pickup rolled up the Herrera Ranch Road, dust trailing behind a familiar figure. Paul climbed out, slower now, but his eyes still sharp as they found the paddock. Dennis was there, taller now, a young man with his hand on Hermano's bridle. The stallion still glossy and strong. He's not a frightened boy anymore. The horse and the ranch grew him up right.
I knew you'd come back. He's still the same, still follows me everywhere.
"Some things don't need to change, son." They walked to the ridge as the sun dipped low. The same desert that had nearly stolen everything, now offering only peace. Paul placed a hand on Hermano's neck, feeling the great heart beat steady under the glossy coat.
He saved me once. Now I get to make sure he never needs saving again.
The Black Stallion lifted his head to the fading light, and the desert held them there, 2 souls and the beast who bound them forever.